Chapter 7. The Place of Great Dryness. "It is sad that you are leaving us," said Abba, addressing Lion, Caller, and Hare, and extending his small brown hand in farewell. "You go to a place of great dryness, which is much loved by my ancient people. You will find our paintings hidden in caves. You will feel very close to Earth Mother, because there she does not hide her face and goes unveiled. Once, before the white man came with his gun, the great plains of the Karoo held vast herds of sleek, fat buck, and were covered with rich, long pasture. But man changed all this, and Earth Mother became dry as a bone, and Father Sky shed no more tears, and the earth said, 'I will turn myself into fine gold and run before the wind, and you will not catch me to turn before your plough, or harness me again to your needs. For you were unmindful of my needs, and your ill-considered vanity robbed me of my beauty and green and tender leaves. Now I put upon me a cruel new beauty, untame and racked with remembrance of what I was before you came and changed my darling face. Farewell, we shall miss you all, and remember that old Lucifer can be found in his summer residence at the top of Devil's Peak on a hot summer evening.' "So I am told," said Abba, and Caller shook his hand warmly and gave him one of his new cravats. They said goodbye to the baobab and all her family of creatures, and promised to drop them a line, care of Hare of Africa, Poste Restante, Zanin. Then they climbed into their small car, and with many a wave of farewell, and more than a few tears, and drove to Devil's Kloof to leave the car at the garage and catch the train for the Great Karoo. They promised to keep an eye open for the missing vehicle. They would let Brer Rabbit know where it could be found. "Welcome on board, gentlemen," said a small, amiable Indian sitting next to the window in their compartment. He was eating an orange and mopping his brow with a brown silk handkerchief. "Very hot weather we are having," he said. Hare looked at him doubtfully, and then, looking closer, he decided that he liked them and ushered in Lion and Caller. "That is a fine dog, big and golden with healthy teeth," observed the Indian. "This is Lion," said Hare simply. Mr. Vindaloo was a man of stalwart parts. He didn't even flinch, and his level gaze took in his three strange travelling companions. "The great Mahatma was a lover of animals, so you are very welcome to my humble compartment," he said, and helped them to lift their suitcases onto the deep shelf above the door. The three sat down stiffly, wondering at their strange surroundings. It was a modern carriage. At the windows were metal grills to keep out the cinders that came from the great steam engines, which were still used on certain stretches. It was all very exciting. The guard waved his green flag, and the train began to move with a few preliminary jerks. "It's an apprentice, I suppose," said Mr. Vindaloo. "The old-timers take them out very smoothly. They drive the great Iron King as though handling a butterfly." The animals grinned, and the conversation began as though Mr. Vindaloo had always been part of their conspiracy. Lion kept rolling his eyes towards the door. He was afraid of the guard. He did not want to travel in the guard's van, and he didn't think the guard would have him in there without a cage. "You will just have to pretend you are a stuffed and mounted lion. So when I say down, lie between the seats as flat as possible," suggested Hare. "I will be a good trophy lion, a man-eater from Tsavo, no?" "Yes," said Hare, "but I'll do the talking." "Where are you travelling to?" asked Mr. Vindaloo. "We are on our way to Cape Town, but Lion wishes to see Liuchamka, which lies somewhere along our route." "I am going to Cape Town too," he said, "the flower city of the south. Even the blue gums are in flower there." And he smiled at the thought. "My brother has a big supermarket in Claremont, and I shall be staying with him." "How nice for you," said Hare. "We have a date on Devil's Peak with a certain pipe-smoking gentleman of doubtful character." "Ah, be careful, my friend. He plays a rotten game of golf. His cricket isn't cricket, and his bowling is very biased. He is no sportsman. Mr. Lucifer makes his own rules. When the black southeaster starts to blow, you'll know he's in residence." "Thank you," said Hare, starting to clean his whiskers purposefully. "That is all I need to know." "Flatten!" shouted Hare, as the ticket collector rattled his key in the lock to warn the occupants of his coming. Lion lay spread-eagled on the floor. His jaws were open, showing a pink lolling tongue between milk-white teeth. "Mamma mia, that it should come to this," he thought. He, Riccardo, famous lion to a famous circus, having to bite the dust of a railway carriage miles from home. He, the cream of Alfonso's circus, to be stepped upon like a common hearth-rug. And he nearly sighed. The guard seemed satisfied, and he went away. "I am a tailor. I travel in suits for my employer, Mr. Mukherjee. He is a very particular gentleman. I go to Cape Town on his orders. I am travelling to order, you might say." "That must make you tired," said Lion kindly, licking him on the cheek. Mr. Vindaloo blushed, and his eyes grew cloudy with a hidden desire which he felt safe in disclosing to these sympathetic companions. "I should like to go to London to buy a Savile Row suit." "Oh, yes, that would be very fine. Mukherjee's nose would be not so high." "Oh, dear, no. It would be a very low nose indeed. Oh, yes, by George." "Our dreams," said Caller. "What would we be without our dreams? I would like to live in a castle with a moat and a resident ghost, but because of my lifestyle, I live under a rock in a rockery at Glyndebourne." The man arrived to make the beds, and the animals were intrigued at the ease with which he worked in the narrow confines of the compartment. They all stood in the corridor and gazed out upon the parched earth of the terrain. The sun blazed low on the horizon. Soon the evening shadows would close in, and darkness would follow quickly. The wind pumps with their stiff arms stood out against the flat, endless horizon, like metal flowers in the breeze. It remained hot, with a heat which had to be accepted to be tolerated. Lion and Mr. Vindaloo took the bottom bunks, and Hare and Caller slept above them. The night was a restless one. They had to leave the compartment door open to allow a small breeze to fan their hot, exhausted bodies. Caller was aware of the cinders landing on him during the night, and tossed and turned in his sleep, while the great engine, black and powerful, hissed and roared her way towards the sea. The dawn light filtering through the slate woke Lion, and he pulled the shutter down and peered out. The train was stationary. He looked up and down the track, and the sights and sounds that met his eyes and ears shook his great frame with pangs he could not describe. The narrow signpost, newly painted in black lettering, read Liuchamka. It was a place of mysterious magic. Low-lying hills were etched against the rose and gold dawn sky, and here and there were stretches of water which mirrored the scene again and again. All along the track were dark bushes, alive with the throb and skirl of insect life, the singing bushes of Liuchamka of which his family had spoken. Here and there were dotted low white buildings, railway workers' cottages, and with their peach trees and silver-veined windmills, but asleep and silent, while the darkness, gently breaking, sang all around them of a new day, of joy in life, of eternity out on that star-enchanted plain. "This is it," cried Lion. "My friends, wake up! This is where I must leave the train. My heart calls to me to get off here. This is the place my mother mentioned to me as a small cub. Come, hurry, hurry!" And he tugged at their pillows. What? Cried Caller, falling off the top bunk onto Lion's back. Wallop! Ow! Bang! "Pack my bag while I wash," he ordered the others. "Ow, you are standing on my foot," he yelped at Lion. It is well that the engine driver had decided to call on his mother for an early morning cup of her excellent coffee. Had he not done so, the story of Leo Chamka might never have been written. The details of our lives hang upon such minor points, which in themselves are small, yet have a vital bearing on the whole. The fact that Caller was still in his pajamas when the train whistle blew is neither here nor there. He had packed all his clothes and locked the suitcase when he discovered that he had nothing to wear. "Come on," the others cried, and ran down the corridor and leapt onto the small platform. Caller followed them, grumbling to himself about careless friends. Mr. Vindaloo bade them a fond farewell and dropped Crawler's travelling rug to him from the window. "Remember me to Savile Row," he shouted as the engine hissed and blew clouds of billowing white steam into the cool morning air. "Goodbye," and the trio waved to the departing train and the warm comfort of their departing beds, and they looked at one another in dismay. What had they done? What new adventure would this small siding in the middle of nowhere lead to? Nobody knew.